Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Unlocked. I'm Tracy Wilson, your host for today. And today we've got an amazing guest all the way from Australia in my home country, which is fantastic to have a guest on this side of the world. So Ben Fewtrell is his name. I am going to introduce you and give you a whole lot of detail about Ben. But if you are somebody who wants to build the business of your dreams, and you've started your own business, you imagine that this business was going to be amazing, and somehow down the track it was like, holy crap, this is not quite what I had in mind. This is not quite how I thought this business that I had conjured up in my mind and that I'd even put into my business plan was going to turn out. So I'm going to introduce you to Ben in just a few moments. Ben has created multiple million-dollar businesses, not only his own, but also many, many other companies that he's worked with, other business owners that he has helped them to take their business from where they were to multi-million-dollar businesses. So I want you guys to listen up today. I want you to go and grab yourself a pen and paper, because on the Unlock Show, we make sure that you walk away with actionable steps, and today is no different. So hang about. In about 1 minute's time, we're going to be back with another episode of Unlocked with Ben Fewtrell, and I want to make sure that you guys get an amazing amount of value today. So see you in a few moments. Well, hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Unlocked. I'm your host, Tracy Wilson, and just like I promised, I would have the amazing Ben Fewtrell with me today from Max My Profits. And I've asked Ben to be on today's show because he's somebody that I know has worked with loads and loads and loads of business owners and has been an amazing coach for them, helping them really take their business to the next level. And not only that, he's actually done it multiple times himself. So let me tell you a little bit about Ben. So he started out in business at the ripe old age of 18 years old. And at that time, he started a trucking company. And within a very short space of time, within about 4 years, he had something like 64 trucks on the road in his trucking company. Fast forward a few years, I'm sure he started out at 18, and he might even fill in the gaps here for us, but starting out at 18, kind of imagining what his business might be like 10 years down the track. I think the story goes that he sort of looked back and went, hang on a minute, crap, this is not quite what I had in mind, working all the hours under the sun and realizing that, you know what? There must be a better way. There's got to be a different way of doing business. And so the story goes, he is now doing business coaching and has been doing so for a number of, I'm going to say, decades now. And he has helped multiple businesses. So welcome to the show, Ben. It's fantastic to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored.
You're very welcome. Well, it's great to have you here. And I love being able to share these stories with all of our viewers. And like I said, currently we are live across Facebook and also across YouTube. So you guys that are watching us right now, we are live. These are not recorded, which means that you're able to actually interact with us. So right now, underneath this video, you'll be seeing that there is a section where you can comment just like you would on any other post on Facebook and YouTube. And as we're moving through today's conversation with Ben, you can also have the opportunity to ask him questions. Make no mistake, for you to be able to have the opportunity to ask Ben questions like you're going to today would cost you thousands of dollars in consultation fees. So take advantage of this show. It's live. As we're talking, you can ask any questions you like. And we'll unlock all of those goodies and that skill and knowledge and experience that Ben has inside of him. So let's kind of go back a little bit, Ben. Let's tell everybody, you did start a business like when you were 18 years old. And let's talk a little bit about, that vision, because today's show is all about, building the business that you actually imagined. So tell us about the business that you imagined way back then and kind of a bit of the unfolding of that story and how you've come to be where you are today.
Yeah, sure. I think, like most business owners, if you ask anybody why they started their business in the first place, very rarely will it be anything except for time and money. And they may say things like flexibility or freedom, all of those things, but they all come back to time and money. And so I was no different. I wanted to build a business that gave me a great income, but also gave me the time to enjoy that income. But what I ended up with instead was a ball and chain. And, I was working ridiculous hours in my transport company. So it sounds really impressive. And that's why when I coach people, and while my team work with people, we don't talk about sales, we talk about profitability and lifestyle, because it's easy to get caught up in multi-million-dollar businesses and having 60 odd trucks on the road and, being the biggest or being number one. But if you're not making money and enjoying your life, then it's actually a false economy. And so, what I soon learnt was that I got years into that business. I was worn out. I was working maybe 80 or 90 hours a week. We weren't making very much money at all. And it was very, very stressful. It was a time in my life that I remember feeling extremely stressed and anxious. I think it was taking its toll on my marriage at the time as well. I probably wasn't the greatest of parents. I was quite angry a lot, and I'm not an angry person, right? But so these are all the things that I was feeling instead of the freedom and the income that I desired to have when I started a business. So all of this magical formula that I thought was just starting a business and all of those things would happen never eventuated. And so, I think, and a lot of business owners I'm sure could relate to that, they end up working harder than they would if they worked for somebody else, and quite typically paying themselves less than what they got paid when they worked for somebody else. But of course, they've got all the additional stress and the challenges of running a business and recruiting people and building systems and marketing and all those things that, they didn't have to worry about before when they worked for somebody else. And I think this is what it's all about, is so helping people then build something that they imagine by understanding that, being passionate, working hard is not the secret. You've got to actually know how to build a business.
Absolutely. And I'm really pleased that, it says it even in the name of your business, maximize my profits, that you're actually talking about profits rather than turnover or sales, because a lot of people make the mistake of, hey, well, I've got a fantastic business because I'm turning over or I'm making a lot of money. But at the end of the day, they look at their bottom line and go, well, I've got nothing to show for it. So really, really important that that distinction is distinction is made. And also that, when you're starting out, like you say, you start out going, well, hey, I want to make some money and I want to get some more time back for myself. And often we think that by creating our own business, that's what we're going to create, but without being very intentional or structured or have some form of strategy around, well, how the heck am I actually going to do that? Because just allowing it to unfold often unfolds into an awful mess that you weren't really intending to have at all. I want to talk a lot about when you're starting out in business, and given that you've coached a lot of people, what are some of the biggest? There's a lot of, like, most businesses don't survive past the first 5 years, right? Most businesses, 51% of businesses fail within that first 5 years. In your opinion, and based on what you've seen, why is that the case? Like, what are some of the fundamental mistakes that most business owners make that maybe we could kind of unlock and we can uncover so that people are more aware of those and they can do something about it?
Yeah, great question, and one that can be simple to answer, or even could be quite complicated. But I have a very simple view of things, and that's one of the things that I think has made me effective when it comes to building a business. Is I don't get bogged down in the detail. So when I look at a business, I like to measure two things, and these two things will determine how successful that business will be. One of them is profits. We've already touched on. You've got to be profitable, and make no bones about it. A lot of people get funny about money, but money is important. It's up there with oxygen, right? It might not be the most important thing, but it's very important. And then the second thing is cash flow, and it's sort of like a car. If you think about fuel and then speedo. The faster you're going, the quicker you'll get there. But you've got to make sure you've got the fuel to keep the engine running. And so a business is very similar. So I always say to people, if you've got poor cash flow and poor profits, you've got a poor business. If you've got no cash flow and no profits, you've got no business. If you have great cash flow and great profits, you've got a great business. And it's a very simple formula. And so I say to people, just rank yourself out of 10. So if your cash flow is not great and it's a 1 out of 10, but your profits are 10 out of 10, that's still only a 10 out of a possible 100 score. And so I always say, I think the main reason people fail in business is because they do not focus on those two areas. They typically go into business because they're good at something, they're passionate about something. Maybe they worked for somebody else and they were really good at their job. They start a business, they go in and they spend 90% of their effort in the technical side or doing the work, and no time whatsoever, or very little time focusing on maximizing cash flow and profitability. And if you think about why business goes belly up, it's got nothing to do with their ability to service customers. It's got nothing to do with their ability to do the work or the quality of their products. Typically, it's got everything to do with the fact that they run out of money. That's it. So if you don't have any money, if you don't have capital, and you don't know how to create more money, then you're in trouble. That's essentially it.
Exactly. And I think the statistic is something like 37% of businesses fail because they have lack of cash flow or capital. So those two fundamental things, am I actually profitable? Can I make some money? The end of the day, for all of the efforts and the hard work that I'm making, am I actually able to do, have I got something left over?
Yeah.
And then secondly, if have you got a continuous flow of we call it like the vein, the blood flow through your business is the cash flow. And if you don't have that and that's cut off, well, just like you alluded to with oxygen, well, you're not going to survive very long without having some form of oxygen into your business. When you're working with, when you're looking at those two factors, so let's say we're going into a business and we're going, okay, I'm going to measure these two factors. What are some of the things that that a business at any level could do? Like, what would the first step to be to determine, am I actually, if I've actually got a really great business here? If I've got the potential to make this a great business, if I'm looking at those two factors, where would a business owner go and how can they measure those two things?
Yeah, good question. I think, and once again, it's quite simple. Cash flow forecasting has been around for decades, yet most business owners don't do it. And I always say you've got to know what the next 90 days looks like. So, and we use a very simple Excel spreadsheet, which we give our clients, so we just say, use this spreadsheet, put in your opening bank balance, put all your expenses in there and track what money's going out, what money's going in. And that way you always know whether or not you've got fuel in the tank. Now, there are times in your business when you'll run out of fuel and you'll have to go and get more fuel. It's called borrowing money. Okay. And you've got to be okay with that. If you know your business is profitable and you have a plan moving forward, you can borrow money. The worst thing to do is to put money into a business that's not profitable, that is failing, because all you're going to do is lose that money as well. So I always say to people, when you borrow money, make sure you understand why you're borrowing it. So are you going to use it for marketing? Are you going to use it to buy equipment? Are you going to use it to employ a salesperson? Are you going to use it for developing systems or implementing a CRM or some technology in your business that's going to make your business more efficient and therefore more profitable? So that's cash flow forecasting is the first thing. The second thing is get a handle on your numbers. So, as much as it can be scary, and I'm no accountant, by the way, Tracy, I sucked at maths at school. In fact, I failed maths. But I always say to people, just learn the basic fundamentals. And a business is very basic. You have to sell a product or service, and it has to cost you less than you sell it for to make money. It's that simple, right? And in a business, if you look at a profit and loss statement, it's broken down into some very basic areas: income, costs of sale or costs of goods sold, then fixed expenses, and then profit. That's it. That's all it reports. But you've got to be able to look at those things. And I say to people, understand your profit and loss statement. Don't let your accountant set it up, because they're going to set it up for compliance. You've got to set it up so you can use it to manage your business. So you can track different sale categories, track what it's costing you to get those sales, look at your expenses, and create a budget, because then you can start to forward plan as to how much you can afford to spend and what sales you need to support the business that you've built. So if you've got, rent and you've got electricity and you've got employees, you need to cover those. And that's what we call the break-even point. So, once you've got your P&L up to date, your profit and loss statement, that is, you can work out at what point do I start making money? That's your break-even point. And that really becomes your base. You go, all right, well, if my break-even point is $25,000 a week, well, then I know I need to aim for that. It's $5,000 a day. So every day now, now, you can go, have I got 5 grand's worth of sales? Now, yes, business sales cycles are different. So it might be a monthly thing you look at or a quarterly thing if you're selling a high ticket item, but you really need to have your head around the numbers. And so when we start a client, the first 90 days, it's setting KPIs. So that's key performance indicators. What are you going to track so you know your business is profitable? It's getting the cash flow forecast, getting the financials up to date, and making sure that the business owner has a good grasp of those numbers, because that's the difference between success and failure.
Absolutely. And again, because I like statistics and stuff, and this has kind of been my wheelhouse for some time, given that I've got a financial and a banking background, the statistics say 35% of business owners also fail because they have a lack of financial knowledge. So what you're talking about in terms of like understanding how to read, a set of balance sheets, like actually reading them and understanding what the numbers are telling you, but looking at that on a regular basis, because then you're able to make some informed decisions about what do I do. And secondly, to your point about, okay, so you're going to now go and borrow some money to invest in a particular area of your business, you're then also able to make an informed, or at least a good, solid decision about where am I going to invest that money, and is it going to give me a return on my investment? Is it going to flow back into some form of profit somewhere along the line? Because unfortunately, the bank is not going to say, hey, you keep coming and borrowing, and I'm happy to put some money back into a pool of a business that's failing. So just like you mentioned about you, the business owner, not putting money continuously back into your business if it's not going to return a profit, the bank is going to be exactly the same. So let's go down the path of, so in terms of like structuring a business, so, structuring your business, because this is often something that business owners don't always think about, actually structuring it for growth. So, we start out, we would structure the business in a certain way. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like when you look at the most successful businesses that you've worked with, what are some of the fundamental things that they do in terms of structuring for growth? And how do they differ from a structure for growth than just a structure that maybe has no opportunity for growth to it?
Yeah, I think there's two very clear differences when you look at a business that isn't growing versus one that is. And when you look at those that are struggling, typically, if you think about it like this, Tracy, when a small business owner or an entrepreneur, let's say you've got this idea, or you've been good at what you did, you lost your job and you had to start your own business, whatever reason, right? You start your own business, you have this need quite urgently to get customers. So you go out and you start marketing yourself. You go to network groups, you tell your friends about it. You might put an ad somewhere, and you get enough customers that you get busy. And the reason you get busy is because you end up doing all of the work. So you get these customers, someone's now got to deliver. And that usually is you, right? The business owner. So you do the work. And then what happens is you start to lose some of those customers. Their sales drop back off again, and then you panic. So you go back into marketing mode. And this is a cycle people get in. If you think about the sales cycle, it's like this: up, down, up, down, up, down. And they hit this glass ceiling. And what happens is a business that is structured for growth, what will happen is when they hit that first glass ceiling of being so busy they can't market anymore, they'll hire someone to do the marketing, or they'll outsource it. So the marketing continues even though they're busy doing the delivery. Or they'll hire someone to do the delivery, and that way they can continue to do the marketing. And that way we see that growth. Now, you still see a dip. Okay, that's normal because there's more resources required at that point in time, whether it's training or it's money or people or whatever it might be. There's going to be a small dip, but then you see that next stage of growth, and this is how a business grows. So I always say to people when they're structuring their business, they've probably seen organizational charts before. I like to break it down to what I call the machine view, and think about your business as 4 distinctive machines. And if you were a business that was in manufacturing, this is easy to wrap your head around, but not everyone is. But let's say, think of these 4 machines as if they were a production line. Now, when you start your business, the first machine that you're operating is probably the operational machine. You're really good and strong in operations, so you're getting the job done. But there's a couple of machines before that. The very first machine is called the lead generation machine. Okay, and you need a machine that consistently and predictably can generate inquiries, whatever that looks like for your business, whether it's quotes, whether it's people walking into your shop, whether it's people hitting your website. That machine has to be responsible for doing that. And you've got to think about it like I've gone to the business machine shop and I've bought myself a lead generation machine. If it's not generating leads, you would take it back, right? You would do something about it. So I say set some KPIs about what you want that machine to produce. Has it got to produce 30 leads a week, 50 leads a week, 10 quotes a week, whatever the number is, and make sure that machine is doing that job. The next machine is then what I call the conversion machine, because generating a lead is one thing. The next step is to convert it into a customer. So that machine has to be about sales process. So, some sort of maybe showing them testimonials, before and after photos, sales scripts, a CRM, some sort of, regular contact. It could be a nurturing sequence in an email program, whatever it might be. That machine is responsible for taking those leads, building up their interest and desire so they want to take action. Okay, and that's what that machine. So that machine's KPI would be conversion rate, maybe average value of the sale. Once that happens, that machine then feeds the operation machine, which is the one that you're very strong in because you've probably done what you've always done. I've actually had 2 hairdressing salons in my past. You don't want me to give you a haircut unless you're bald, right? And it was probably the best thing that happened because guess what? I couldn't work in that operations machine because I didn't know how to cut hair. And so what the danger is, most people, like I said, go into something they're good at, so they end up doing other work. That machine then feeds the last machine, the 4th machine, which is the business machine. And that machine is responsible for making sure that all the bills are paid, that all the compliance is done in regards to employment or taxation. It makes sure we're profitable. It does all the numbers. So if you think about those 4 machines, lead generation, conversion, operations, and business, that becomes your organizational chart. You set 4 different sets of KPIs, and in the beginning, you're going to be the manager of each machine. But at some stage, you hire someone to run that machine, and then you oversee that machine as the overall general manager of the business. Okay, so the general manager oversees those 4 machines and makes sure they're all hitting their targets. And you've really got to think of a person and hold them accountable to achieving the target you set for that machine, and that's the key thing. So it's no good. Like I said, if you went to the machine shop and bought a machine that said it was going to make 30 leads a week and it only made 20 leads a week, I'm pretty sure you get on the phone pretty quickly and say, what's going on with this machine? It's not producing. And that's the way you've got to run your business.
Absolutely. So let's kind of explore now, like business owners, like they start out, they are the person that's kind of the technical knowledge. They've started out doing the thing that they love and that they enjoy. And they hit that very first kind of glass ceiling. Let's talk through kind of some of let's call them the glass ceilings that they are going to hit as they move through and as they continue to grow their business. So I just want to shed some like real awareness on what are they, so that a business owner can identify them and know what do I do? What's the next move that I need to make when I feel this way, when I observe that this is happening, or something's going on in their business that's kind of getting almost like that prickly point where, ooh, I need to do something right now because it's getting a little bit uncomfortable. So what are some of those milestones that they might see that would be obvious to them, and what would they do about it?
Yeah, so there's like this gap between one point and another where a lot of people get lost. I call it the Bermuda Triangle of business because a lot of people go missing in there. But if you think about the very first, that startup phase of being self-employed, that can be actually quite rewarding and profitable. It means that you can't take holidays, you can't get sick, and your business relies on you. But that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're not trying to build a business, just admit to yourself that you're self-employed and that you've built yourself a job. Nothing wrong with that. If you look at the definition of a business is it's an entity that doesn't rely on you having to do the work. The problem is when you go past self-employed, to get to that next step, it is a big gap. And what happens is, being self-employed, you're very involved in the day-to-day operation. So you troubleshoot as each problem comes up, and you're there on the spot, looking after customers, answering queries, fixing problems, and it's all coming out of your head. To get to that next level, you have to systemize your business, because you'll get to a point in time where you can't see everything that is happening. You won't hear that customer complaint. You won't see that product going out with a defect, or you won't be there when the installer goes and walks mud through that person's house, whatever it might be. So what you have to do is you have to start to go, okay, what are the key things that have got me successful as a self-employee, and then how do I replicate that within my own business? And you have to build systems, and systems is the key. I mean, you look at the largest hamburger chain in the world, they run on systems. They've got kids making burgers that you can't get to clean up their room, let's face it, and even down to like the sauce, the amount of sauce that goes onto one of their burgers is meted out by an electronic gun. They just press a button and the same amount of sauce comes out every single time. And now, if that was relied on an individual deciding, well, how much sauce do I put on today? They'll probably have a lot of unhappy customers. So for you to build a business, you know, the first glass ceiling you're going to hit is the fact that you have superhero syndrome. It's got to be all about you. And it's challenging for a business owner to let go, but you need to set the systems up so you can let go. Because once you've built the systems, then you train people to run the systems, and the systems run your business, not the people. And that's the key. That is 100%. So that's the first glass ceiling people hit, is that they get uncomfortable with the fact that the business won't be all about them. It won't rely on them. Not every question has to come to them. And it's better if it doesn't. You know, I can go away for a week and know that everything's sweet. Nobody rings me. No one emails me, you know, because my business is systemized.
Yes. And like, I mean, that's kind of like, I love systems and processes. That's kind of my, you know, my thing is, you know, helping people implement their systems and their processes into their business. And, you know, nowadays I do this sort of stuff, but you're absolutely right. Right. Taking the time and often what I also find, and I'm curious to see if you sort of find this too, is that a lot of business owners will put off the fact that, oh, I've got to systemize things. You know, it's like it ends up in the too hard basket. But I think the advice would be that you would give would be the same as me, would be, you know, the sooner you do that, the better. The faster you can, as soon as you implement a new process and you realize that it's something that you have to do on the regular, you want to systemize that and, you know, put some standard operating procedures in place so that you can now delegate that to somebody else, and somebody else can step in and do it just the same way that you would. Just like the example you gave about McDonald's, you know, press a button and you know that exactly the right amount of sauce is going to go onto that Big Mac. You know, there is no if, buts or maybes. That's the same, and it doesn't matter which, you know, where you go in the world, it's going to be the same amount of sauce. So really, really important piece is that systemization. When you're, again, when you're working with a business owner, what do you often find is the biggest, I suppose, thing that limits people's growth? What is that?
Them. Usually it's them, you know.
Why is that? Yeah, why is that? And like, what do we see?
Because I think what happens is that they have this thing, I call it the no one can do it as good as me-itis disease. You know, and
call it like the superhero method or something.
The superhero syndrome, yeah. So if everything has to rely on you doing all the work, you're in trouble. So you need to think about how you can delegate, and you need to be comfortable with that. So you are your biggest limiting factor. You can blame the economy, you can blame pandemics, you can blame the government, you can blame your team. But at the end of the day, as soon as you take ownership for everything that's going on in your business, it's going to work out better in the long run. So you always say to people, you are your biggest limiting factor. And the reason is because most people don't put the effort in to learn more. Or they, like I said, when it comes to systems, why don't they systemize? Well, sometimes it'll be, oh, but I don't know what to do. Well, hire someone to do it. You know, you wouldn't do your own root canal. If I said you needed root canal, would you try and work it out how to do it yourself, or would you go and find an endodontist and pay him a couple of $1,000s to do it? Sure, it's expensive, but there's a reason for that. It's complex. So I always say to people, stop trying to do everything yourself. Number one, value your time more than your money, because most business owners value their money more than their time. So what they do is they'll do stuff they don't like or that they're not good at to save money. Instead, what they should do is they should pay someone to do that so they save time, because then they can work on the things that will make them more money. So if you've got a skill set, so for example, I'm no good at the detail, I'm no good at the numbers, and I don't do systems, right? I'm visionary, I'm a driver, I can build stuff, I can, you know, do presenting, I'll do sales meetings all day long. So it doesn't make sense to say to me, Ben, you do your books. There's no way, because I can do the books, but it'll probably take me 3 or 4 times longer than a good bookkeeper. So I go, okay, well, what have I got to pay a bookkeeper? Even if I've got to pay a premium, let's say I'm paying $100 an hour, it's still going to take me 3 hours to do what they'll do in an hour. So for $100, I get 3 hours of my week back. It does not make sense for me to try and do it. Yet I see so many business owners, Tracy, so many, I'm sure you do as well, that try and do everything themselves. Don't build your own website. I'm sure, look, there are people out there that teach you how to do it. Don't listen to them. There's entrepreneurs out there saying, hustle till 10 o'clock at night. Don't listen to them. It's rubbish. Work out how to make sure your business is so profitable that you can hire professionals to do the work that you're not good at, and then stick to your knitting. Do what you're good at and you're passionate about, and your business will grow.
it comes back to that saying, don't try and figure out the how, go find the who that already knows the how.
100%.
And just that's going to enable you to go a lot faster. I mean, I think a lot of business owners that will be watching today, and this actually applies whether you've got an online business, or it doesn't matter what type of business you've got. The things that Ben is talking about today apply to any type of business. Even the machine model, applies to an online business as well. You still need to make sure that you're getting, leads in, that you're able to nurture those leads, that you can convert them, that you're actually still checking on what's my profitability and how do I deliver this, and can I continue to do what I'm doing. So all of these things are very, very relevant. And we've recognized that, the biggest limiting factor in any business is often, dare we say it, you, the business owner, or we, the business owner, can often be the person that's standing in the way, because we think that, hey, it's I just bloody do it myself. Like would be faster for me to do it myself. And it may well be in that moment, but further down the track, it's going to come back to bite you in the bum and prevent your ability to be able to continue to grow. So also I want to talk about, like, I know you've got like this proven, predictable kind of model of being able to grow your business. And what I also see a lot kind of out in the business world is that people will talk about kind of like this fast, this almost like a magic pill. I can fix your business and we can get you this result really, really quickly. And in my opinion, the key is to be able to implement things that are going to not only give you a quick win now, but they're actually sustainable and profitable over the long term. So in your opinion, when you're seeing businesses, or the things that you maybe would implement into somebody's business or encourage them to implement as a business coach, what are some of those things that are like predictable, but are also profitable and sustainable over the long term?
So, there's probably a lot of that, and I understand 100% what you're saying. That when it comes to quick wins, it's very difficult to give people quick wins, and sometimes it's not healthy. So, we always position people that this is a long-term thinking. You've got to think about the future, not just the next 3 months. Having said that, we run a 90-day challenge. We just finished one, and we had one of the guys in there double his profits in 90 days. His sales went down by 10%, by the way, but he doubled his profits. And so that's really what we focus on. But that's not typical, that happened. But a lot of people don't see those results. That's an amazing result. And I see coaches all the time promising 10x your business, and I think most businesses couldn't handle it if they doubled, let alone 10 times their business, Now, when it comes to some proven things that you can do, I do have a few strategies that I know work gangbusters no matter what. First one is put your prices up. Now, that scares a lot of people. But just trust me, put your prices up 10% today. Doesn't matter about how competitive your industry is. You will not lose enough clients for that not to make you more money. And if you do lose a few clients, who cares? They're the ones you don't want anyway. So put your prices up. The second thing is get a hold of your numbers. Understand your profit and loss statement. Start putting budgets together. Do your cash flows. Set some KPIs and get your team or yourself really driven on achieving targets. Set some targets and some goals and just focus on it, because what we focus on is what happens. Just go and ride a bicycle out there, and wherever you look is where you're going to ride. It's the same in business. So, if you're looking for the problems, you'll find them. If you're looking for the profit, you'll find it, right? So look where you want to go. You set the goals, set some KPIs, get your team focused on that, and you'll find that that'll work really well. I also think it's important. A lot of people get hung up on the marketing side, but it's no good generating more leads if your business hasn't maximized its profitability. So, and conversion rate, because, they're a low hanging fruit. If you don't have a predictable sales process, if you don't have a way of, maybe it's before and after photos, maybe it's a sales script, maybe it's a guarantee, whatever. If you don't have a methodology for maximizing the conversion rate, a good follow-up process, better quoting process, then that's what I would work on first before I worry about spending money on marketing. Because what happens when we do marketing is we're actually going to do probably the riskiest thing in our business and the most expensive. And we're going to spend money on something that we don't know whether or not it's going to work. Even somebody this is my 20th year in coaching, and I can tell you that even in 20 years, I have an idea what's going to work, but I still can't guarantee what's going to work. You might spend a few $1,000s on a campaign and it flops, or it might really work. But what I do know is that if I do have a campaign, let's say I have a campaign I spend $1,000 on, and it generates me 10 leads, but my conversion rate's only 10%. Well, that's $1,000 for the client. But if my conversion rate's 20%, well, it's only $500 for that client. And so it's always about knowing those numbers. What is my acquisition cost? So I say to people, focus on your conversion rate, focus on getting clear on your goals, get the team fired up to drive in a direction so everyone knows where they're heading. Make sure you're clear on your numbers. Make sure you know what you're doing, and charge more. You're all worth more than you think you are. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, isn't it? And that just comes back to, who is the biggest problem in your business is, you, because often we don't think that, you think, oh, well, like I can charge this amount of money and that's what I'm, that's what I feel like I'm worth. But often that's just a self-limiting belief that is totally untrue. And like you say, take Ben's advice today and just raise your prices by 10% and see what happens. And you're going to get, that's 10% more profit in your back pocket. And most likely, you're not going to lose any clients, and if you do, they'll be ones that probably took up the most of your time anyway.
Absolutely. It's the old 80-20 rule.
It absolutely is. So look, Ben, I before we wrap up today, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of share anything else that you think is like if you were out there and you were giving some advice to, maybe it's a new business owner, or even somebody who's kind of feeling like, I'm feeling a little bit like, I don't know if this is right. This business that I imagined in my head or I dreamt of is not what I'm looking at today. What would be the one move that you think that person should make?
Today. I think from an entrepreneur, to turn yourself into a business owner or an entrepreneur, whatever word you want to use, because at that point you're not, right? If your business isn't successful, then you haven't worked out how to be a business owner and you haven't worked out how to be an entrepreneur. You're still self-employed. It comes down to what the learning that you're doing. And I always say, if you want to earn more, you have to learn more. You have to put the L plate on. And so what I find is most people don't know what they don't know. And so get stuck into some books, audible.com. I'm part dyslexic. I'm not hugely dyslexic, but I struggle to read. So I use audiobooks 100% of the time. I've listened to over 800 books on audible.com. And, that's a great way to learn things about it. Do courses, get a mentor, get a coach, get someone to help you, and understand that, your business is not going to grow by osmosis. You see these successful businesses, it's because somebody put some effort and thought into what they were going to do. So think about it like, if you were going to climb Mount Everest, you wouldn't just rock up at the base of Mount Everest and start climbing. You'd spend a few years training, planning, working out what the issues are going to be. The same thing is true in your business. Work out, what is my target? What does the top of Mount Everest look like for me? So what does my sales need to be to give me the profitability I want for the lifestyle I want? And then you can reverse engineer that business and go, okay, well, if this business is going to generate, I don't know, $300,000 a year in profit for me as the owner, then how many people will I need? How many customers will I need? How many sales will I need? How many transactions does there need to be? And you can start to really break down what sort of venue, office will I need, or warehouse, or online store. So you can really start to get a plan and draw a picture of where it is you're heading. I used that car analogy before about the fuel and the speedo. The same thing's true if you're going to go somewhere. You don't just jump in the car and drive, because you don't know where you're going to end up. And the same thing happens in business. So if you're just starting out and you're feeling a little bit lost, then you need to put a plan together. You need to work out, okay, where am I going and how am I going to get there? Take that step back and take some time to work on the business, because if nobody's working on the business, I always say, who is? And if no one is, what's going to happen? Nothing, right? So take the time out to work on the business, at least 20% of your time, just a day a week. Take Fridays off, go and sit in a park somewhere with your laptop or a notepad and brainstorm what you're going to do to build this business.
Absolutely. And I just want to finish today with, again, I've got to go back to some statistical data, but because you've kind of mentioned this about that planning and how important it is. Again, 49% of businesses fail because of a poorly designed business model or no business plan. So it might sound a little bit crazy, and a lot of people are like, oh man, I don't want to spend all that time even writing a business plan. But if you do, you instantly actually have a higher rate of success on your side if you take the time to do that at the outset. And then, as Ben says, just taking some time out to reflect on that, review it, recharge and reset, so that you know where you're going and you can continue to, have eyes up and looking forward, rather than kind of having your, having to have eyes in the back of your head and looking through the rear vision mirror, because that's just going to send you backwards.
Yeah.
So I want to say
it also makes
Yeah, go
Sorry,
for it,
I
Ben.
was just going to say, just also makes the hurdles smaller if you've got a big vision. So if you're heading towards the top of Mount Everest, whatever that looks like for you, and a problem crops up today, it won't be as big an issue. Easier to jump.
Absolutely. I want to say thank you so much for being here today and sharing your expertise and your knowledge so
My
freely
pleasure.
to all of our viewers. And Ben has really shared with you some fundamental things today that will really help you to either, to decide, I want to thrive in business. If you want to thrive in business and you actually want to create the business that you had imagined, then there are some fundamental things that you need to put in place to ensure that you give yourself every opportunity to be successful. And a lot of that, making sure he's giving you, a task today, increase your price, do that immediately. That's an action out of today's show and session. And the second is making sure that you're focusing, when you focus on the right things, set yourself some targets, measure these things, start to understand what's going on, in your books and in your financials, so that you too can make some informed decisions and make good decisions about the next step that you need to take in your business. Now, I want to let everybody know that if you would like to get in touch with Ben, then you can head on over to www.maxmyprofits.com.au. Ben and his team, he's got a team of, 6 or 7 business coaches on his team that are all very experienced in helping all kinds of businesses take their business to the next level. So I want to invite you guys to head on over there and make sure that you connect with Ben. And I want to give him another opportunity just to let us know if there's anything else that he would like to share on today's show before we wrap it up.
That's it. Once again, if you want any more information, maxmyprofit.com.au, there's heaps of resources there. I actually have a free business planning template there you can go and download. So if the whole planning thing scares you, go and download that tool. It's the same one we've used to grow hundreds of Aussie businesses. So I'm sure it'll help you too.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for being generous and sharing that. Also, I noticed that on his website, there was also a downloadable document. So if you're thinking about getting yourself a business coach, there's a document there that will walk you through what you need to look for and how to hire the best business coach for you. Mm-hmm. So go and download that over at maxmyprofits.com.au. And like I said, you can connect with Ben and the team. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in today. If you are watching this live, then as always, #live. And if you're watching this as a replay, #replay. Make sure that you comment or that you even join our Facebook group, which also has a number of different shows inside of there. It's called Success Secrets for Business, Family and Life. We'll help you with all things to thrive across your business, family and your life. We have shows inside of that Facebook group on a regular basis. You'll see about 8 shows a week happening in there. They're all live, and we bring to you some fantastic speakers from all over the world who speak on topics of how to thrive across business, family and your life. So thanks so much for joining me today. I'll be back again this Friday at 10 a.m. Brisbane, Australia time for another episode of Unlocked. So thanks very much, everybody. Have a fantastic week, and I'll see you again on Friday. Bye for now.